Alright, hi guys. So I was finally able to run my Battle of Cecora game. This is a project that I worked on for uh, about a year, over a year of painting all the figures, also doing research for it. Um, Planned to run it at a convention, but unfortunately I couldn't make it. I am hoping to bring this to a convention at some point, maybe with even more figures. Um, but the setup, to just talk about that briefly, was so this is based on a real battle fought between the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Ottoman Empire in 1621. Essentially, there was an Ottoman um, expedition up to what is today Romania, and encountered the Polish army. I'm summarizing this very briefly, but that was the basic setup. The Ottoman at this period of time, since like kind of the late end of the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire and the Commonwealth had been kind of contesting control over Moldavia, uh, which was a tributary vassal to the Ottomans, but kind of went back and forth depending on who was the prince at the time. But anyway, for the war game, this was the basic setup. So the Poles had the forces divided into three battalions, have the main heavy cavalry battalion in the middle. Well, actually, five battalions. So the main heavy cavalry battalion in the middle, the wagon battalions on either flank, and then um, there was a light cavalry battalion on the left flank, Polish left flank, and then on the right flank, which is just out of frame in this picture, was the Polish infantry battalion. The Ottomans had a large middle battalion of the Timarit Spahi, some with lances, others without. Then the Janissaries in the back protecting the commander-in-chief. And then we had the third, and then another Ottoman battalion in the rear that you can see in the back there. And then on either side there was the Crimean Tatar battalion and then the Nogai Tatar battalion. I wrote up the army list for these myself. I was not really, we played with the Baroque rules. I was not really super satisfied with the Polish and Ottoman lists in the published in the Baroque rules, so I just went ahead and wrote up my own. And I think they worked fairly well. Overall, I think it would be a narrow Ottoman victory, mostly just because the Ottomans were able to break more of the Polish units overall. However, it was not quite a decisive victory in this case for the Ottomans. Most of the destruction on the Polish side came from later in the game. The Polish right flank infantry battalion got overrun by the Nogai Tatars. The wagons, though, did pretty well in the game, and it made for an interesting tactical challenge for the Ottoman player. So, it was difficult for them to charge the wagons. It wouldn't really have been advisable because I decided, since Baroque doesn't really support have rulings for war wagons like this, I decided to just kind of say that it would be like charging a unit in some kind of hard cover, which is in the Baroque rules. I thought that would be an easier way to manage it. Um, Now the wagons were pretty slow, of course. I made them. I initially in my army list made them faster so they could move. Um, and to use metric, so they could use 12 centimeter movement. But I decided that was too much, and I just put them down to 6 centimeters, or in Baroque, it's like one movement unit, which is variable depending on the scale of miniatures. Um, this was the Polish, one of the moments with the Polish right flank. These were the Hajduk skirmishers. They did pretty well, but the Tatars were definitely a force to be reckoned with. One thing that came clear while playing the game in Baroque was it is hard to get decisive kind of shooting results. So in Baroque, you have to roll either sixes or double fives to get a hit. And most of the time in our shooting back and forth, the result was disorder. So one hit, but no permanent damage to the unit. However, what I liked about this and what I appreciated was that um, especially for the units that were more archers, I felt that it gave a good impression of like pinning a unit from like a buffet of arrows, but also from musketry, pinning the unit from musketry and then setting it up for the cavalry to attack. But and so that was an interesting development, and that gave, I think, a pretty good kind of, I don't always like to use realism in war games, but it's kind of a misnomer, but approximating how these battles in this period tended to go, where a lot of them were pretty grinding. You don't have a lot of big, like, breakthrough flanking maneuvers. It was a lot of kind of slow grind in some cases. Um, and I appreciated that. So a lot of the damage to the units really came about because of the unit accumulating disorder. So it you know something for it made me realize, more so in this rather than playing it solo, it is important to try to clear the disorder from your units, which is not always possible. It's a die roll, but it does make a difference because it can turn. Um, so in a Baroque combat resolution, whether from shooting or close combat, if you're already disordered and your opponent lands a hit, that's already one casualty, and then you roll to see if you suffered another casualty or however many additional casualties on top of that. So it is important. I think another aspect of the game that was notable was just the maneuvering was a little tight, but I think that worked for this scenario because in the historical sources, according to what's written in Michał Paradowski's book on that covers this battle and the Battle of Chotin that happened the next year, there was not a ton of room to maneuver, and one thing I implemented in the rules was for lancers they had to reach like max movement distance, or they had to be able to move their full move and then charge to get their impetus bonus. So that would, in Baroque, you get additional dice to roll in the combat resolution when you do a charge, and I found that made things a little more interesting. The winged hussars, in fact, were the first casualty on the Polish side. We had an opening breakthrough of the Ottoman cavalry. And as you can kind of see in this picture, it's a little out of frame, but the this is after the Ottoman cavalry won a combat, and then the winged hussars got pushed back, and then bounced back all the units behind them. And that's another thing about Baroque. So if you end up losing a combat and you fall back, if your cavalry, all cavalry units behind you get pushed back and they suffer disorder, and then when the kind of Polish right flank got overrun by these Tatars, it was mainly destroyed because one of the Tatar units kept pursuing, and that inflicted casualties through accumulated disorder. So that was really a notable feature of the game. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out overall. I think my house rules made sense. There was only one little kind of thing I wasn't sure what to do with, which is some of these light cavalry units that the Poles had. So we have the Cossack-style Polish cavalry on the left, who were not, in fact, Cossacks. They were called Cossack cavalry, but were Polish soldiers. It's a little confusing if you're not familiar with it, but are sculpted with bows and kind of arquebuses, and then the Wallachian style cavalry. I think these guys are modeled with bows for the most part, but what to do, how to handle that in gameplay, because I did modify the shooting mechanics with the bows, because this is a part of the world where the people did tend to be better at archery, and I don't think archery should be made artificially weak in this period, especially in the kind of eastern parts of the world, let's say. But some of them are shown with kind of mixed weapons, arquebuses and bows. So I don't know what to do with that. I ended up deciding in gameplay I would just default with these guys to the bow template, just to make it kind of fair and not make it too overpowered. But that's kind of a small thing. I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to think about that some more. But yeah, glad I could finally get this on the table with another person. It's always interesting to see the results of what happens when somebody else plays the game. And they see it differently than like when I was doing solo gaming it. So that was a lot of fun. The last thing I will say is the guy I was playing with, a really nice guy. I had sent him a link to the rules in advance, and he had looked at them, and he also found the rules confusing to read at first. So it's not just me, but after I would say a few rounds, we started to get the hang of it. I had also not looked at the rules in a little while, or played them, solo game them. So I had to refresh on some things as well. But it was confusing at first. The wording in the rule book is not always the clearest. But like I said, eventually we both got the hang of it, and it was easy to play. The only yeah, and then one I think minor quibble is just after you've been playing a while, and I was kind of tired, is just keeping track of how many dice you're supposed to roll, because sometimes it's like the deductions and the additions get a little confusing. So just having to talk those out while playing to make sure I was getting it right. But anyway, that's any war game has those kind of things. Yeah, but this is my little after action report, game report. So hope you found it interesting, and I recommend check out Baroque if you haven't played it before. It's pretty good. I think you can, and I think you can modify it for your particular sub period or conflict you're trying to do with with relative ease. So, all right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're a regular viewer, I'm going to keep working on Timurids, so hopefully I'll have more of those soon, and I'll have more. Maybe we'll do another stream soon. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a good day or a good night wherever you are.